Hello, everyone. Am I on? Let's see. I realize this isn't the best time of day to go live, but there is a ton of updates and I have half an hour. So really excited to share what's been going on with KICLEI, not just KICLEI, but with local action across the country. Let me just share this out. People going in and addressing their local councils and having great results. So just wanted to get on and share some local wins with you and some updates on how KICLEI is trying to push back on our work and just really showing that we're having amazing results with this, and our message is resonating with counselors and people across the country. So not sure, we got a few people here, so I'll get started. Like I said, I just have an hour, half an hour, and we'll go from there. So I think we will start. I'll just start by saying at the beginning, there is a meeting coming up. It's the National KICLEI meeting. It's the last Monday of every month. So you can go to KICLEI.ca and register for that meeting. And just a reminder for those who have registered, that meeting is coming up. So there's that. And also, if you have been following this work, but you haven't done the Join Us form, that would be great. And if you're looking for help in your community, there is a support request form. And if you fill that out, you have a whole bunch of options. And then I know where you're at and how I can best assist you. And it helps me to keep everyone's work in a proper file. And instead of going back and forth with emails, I have like an initial file to start communicating with you about. So whether you're a resident or a counselor or a member of staff and you want to get the ball rolling with this, you can go from there. Okay, so we had 3 big wins that I was able to see across the country just in my feed this week. So I wanted to show you, we have been doing work in the county of Oxford, and it looks like Southwest Oxford, they were trying to bring in wind turbines there, and the community pushed back on that and they had a win. So I'm just going to show you a quick video of that. And if you would like to see the video, it's also in my feed there. So here we go. It's very quick, but you can see the room. Let me just see that everyone's seeing that good. Okay. And hopefully you have sound.
Anyway, so I think it's pretty clear, 5-1 to vote, and the township is not going to vote. Thank you.
Okay, I'll pause it there for a second, make some comments. Hopefully you could hear that. Comment in the chat and we'll make sure that my sound is working. But that's what it takes, right? If we don't want the solar fields and the wind turbines to be brought into our municipality, or whatever the agenda item is that is clearly coming from the global agenda that's being downloaded onto our local agenda, if we aren't there with people to push back, we won't get that kind of result. But if we are able to organize and show up and bring the people, that council is influenced to do what the people want. So let's listen to that one more time because it was awesome. Great job, Southwest Oxford. Love you guys.
Anyway, so I think it's pretty clear, 5-1 to vote. And the township is not going to vote. Thank you.
All right. Back to StreamYard. Pretty cool, eh? You heard it loud and clear. Good, good. So great job again, Southwest Oxford. When I just got back from BC and Alberta and flying in, it was amazing to look down at all the fields and you could see the wind turbines like in certain areas everywhere. And there was just so many of them. And yeah, a lot went through my mind looking down on that. And it's something that we can win and push back on if we bring our community together. So the other one that I saw was in the county of Vermilion, which is super interesting because it was the town of Vermilion that recently fully withdrew from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And you can look up the newspaper articles on that. And I loved what the councillors and the mayor said, basically that he commented and said, when you look at the FCM website, it's pretty clear that their programming is based on climate change and gender ideology, and it just doesn't seem to fit this small town. So we don't want to be a part of it. And they withdrew their membership. So they set a great example there. And then now we see the county of Vermilion. So the surrounding area around that town, pushing back on their land use bylaws. So let's have a look at this report, and I'm really happy to see other people reporting on this stuff and other people with channels showing up and paying attention to what's happening locally and letting us know what's going on and yeah, just supporting this local action against the global agenda so that we can have national results. So let's listen to this presentation here. There we go. Maybe some of you have seen this already, but it is 6 minutes long and we have time to watch it together.
So I have family members who live in the county of Vermilion River. I used to live in the county of Vermilion River, and yesterday the county of Vermilion River was having a land use bylaw public forum. So I went. Here's what I saw. First, the number of attendees at the meeting was fantastic. This does not capture even close to the entire room. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at this town hall, rightfully so, because they wanted to make their concerns heard. They wanted to make their voices known. They don't like the proposed land use bylaw. So they had the opportunity to stand up at the microphone and give the councillors questions and concerns that the councillors could then meditate on later, I suppose. That was all fine and excellent. It's fantastic that people are involved in the political process like so. But that wasn't the thing, which is the topic of this video. No, instead, I want to talk about the fact that the proposed land use bylaw updates were not drafted by the citizens of Vermilion River. No, they were instead drafted by a company out of Edmonton, big bureaucratic Edmonton. And people are so sick and tired of nonsense like this. That is, we have all these companies coming from far away telling us what we are supposed to do with our property and our land. We have all of these companies from far away, centralized companies, telling we here, even though these companies have no idea of our culture, our citizens, our community, and so on, how we're supposed to subdivide our property or segregate land lines or do with what we have as we please. And again, the people are sick and tired of it, and I don't blame them for 1 second. How is it possible that a centralized power, a centralized company from a place that, again, is far away, can use and segregate and divvy up and allocate our land here more efficiently than the citizens of this community can? It's impossible. It's unthinkable. The idea that centralization is superior to decentralization is nonsense. It's garbage. And the people who are actually living in this community know it. That's why they came out in hundreds and hundreds of numbers yesterday.
Awesome.
Fantastic. It was wonderful. Like, you have the council, and you actually had the individual who was running the company, or who at least drafted the land use bylaw, in attendance yesterday, fielding questions, although not too many of them were answered, to be entirely honest, from the audience. And you had the audience, first of all, asking how much did it cost to draft this land use bylaw? It was $100,000, by the way. And secondly, you had them asking, what right have you to draft this bylaw when it won't affect, one, you at all, secondly, you live far away, and third, you're unelected? Like,
Good question.
why are we not having citizens of the community draft a land use bylaw if you're forced by government regulations and rules to have one? If we're forced to have a land use bylaw, then it should be that the citizens of the community are the ones who draft it, because they are the ones who have to live with it. It isn't right that we should bring in these companies from far away who are pushing this big government ideal and trying to transform every rural community into a mimic or a mirror of Edmonton or Calgary or Ottawa or Toronto or other big city centers, and have them do it for us. No, that isn't what the people want, and that isn't what the people should want. Instead, we should have those who have to live with the land use bylaws actually draft and decide what land use bylaws ought to be in place. And that's what the people here were trying to convey yesterday as well. I mean, you think about it. Private property is absolutely critical, right? Our homes are our castles. Let us do with them as we please. Everywhere else in society, we are bossed around by someone else. We aren't the head of state. We aren't the head of government. Even in our own jobs, we have bosses that we have to appeal to, but not our homes, not in our homes. Right after a hard day of work, we can come back to this retreat, and we can do with our castle, with our homes as we please. We can plant a garden or multiple gardens. We can manicure our lawns a certain way. We can paint our homes or decorate the inside of our homes as we please. And that's wonderful. It's an expression of our individuality. It's an expression of our artistry. It's an expression of who we are as people. And of course, with our unique differences, all of us are going to have different visions for what our little castles should be. And that's an excellent thing. You go to Edmonton or Calgary or other big cities now, and you drive past new homes that are being built, and you see that they're all cookie cutter. They all look exactly the same. There is no real differences between them. They all look practically identical because, well, we're trying to transform, it seems, the world into this one hive mind, this idea where everyone thinks and looks and acts exactly the same. There is no individuality in those places anymore. It's so bad you walk down a street and, first of all, you can reach out your window and touch your neighbor's home. And secondly, you don't even know which home is yours because they all look exactly the same. That is not an ideal way to live. It is certainly not the way these rural individuals want to live. And it shouldn't be the way they want to live. That isn't ideal in the slightest. No, we're individual, we're unique as human beings, and we have the right to do with our private property as we please. And so I think it's time that we completely change this process. Yeah. I think the idea of importing business from out of the community, from far away, telling us how we should operate on our land and telling us what rules and regulations we should enact in our counties should be over. I think the idea that we keep giving these huge dollars to these companies and so on, and not just for land use bylaws, but for other things as well, to tell us how we ought to live is nonsense. And I think the idea, the ridiculous idea that centralization is superior, more efficient, more equitable, more free, and more ideal than decentralization is nonsense. And it should be totally and outright rejected. Okay, so I have family members who live in the county of Vermilion River. I used to live in the county.
Awesome, eh? So it's just really good to see people just showing up like that. And I know that this is happening all across the country, and that's why I set up on the KICLEI website a contact form and a support request form. So if you know that something like this is happening in your area, you can go there, you can share the link with me so that I can have an eye on it and I can share it. I think we're going to basically start a regular weekly wins live stream like this, and we'll just hammer out all of the different actions that are taking place across the country, and start having that conversation and putting it in front of people, because people aren't seeing what's happening at the local level as much. And that's what KICLEI has been starting to change. So a little bit more time before I have to run out the door here. I'm going to put up, so a little context. The organizations like KICLEI and the FCM and their affiliate NGOs are well aware of the information that KICLEI is sharing with counselors across the country. They're well aware of the fact that we're going in and doing delegations. They're well aware of the fact that our newsletter is communicating with over 6,000 counselors across this country, and that number grows every day. So they have launched basically a counterattack, and that is great, because it shows that our work is making a huge impact. And I don't even think that we know how big of an impact it's making. So Rory White from the National Observer reached out to me a few weeks ago, and he wanted to do an hour-long interview. And I just said, hey, send me the questions. I'll respond that way. And of course, he wrote it that I refused to be interviewed, which is funny when you read how, of course, KICLEI can refuse to comment, but he says that, oh, they didn't comment, or, how he basically got kicked out of the FCM, but they politely asked him to leave, which I think is funny. So anyway, there's a few articles that he's done, and you can go to KICLEI.ca and or KICLEI Substack, and you can read about the questions that they asked and the kind of narrative they were setting up and my responses, and then see the article that they wrote. And I guess he's not stopping. So just the other day I saw this. Let me share it on a Facebook page, and I don't know what's going on with my camera today. Hope it's not that sketchy for you. Let's see. And these are the kind of trolls that I want to deal with on a daily basis. Okay. This is where I actually have fun. So you see here, Canada's National Observer. I guess they probably published this article, but it was shared here on the Rolling Justice Bus page, which is, obviously one-sided, and goes on with the title, a U.S. climate conspiracy has spread to Canada and local politicians haven't been warned. So I will share a link to this and everyone can read it, but I just wanted to point out that let me see here. I did get a heads up on this recently. The mayor of North Kawartha, which is in the county of Peterborough, has sent the National Observer's article to all the councils in Peterborough. And that's basically unheard of. So, to send an article from a news organization that is clearly biased and one-sided, and basically promoting misinformation about what KICLEI is. They're saying that KICLEI is essentially an AI chatbot that is flooding councils with misinformation. When I am from Peterborough County, and you guys can read that after. I live in Peterborough County. I show up to the council meetings and engage with them in person. I follow up with them and about the sustainability portfolio in Peterborough County and the city of Peterborough on almost a monthly basis. They know me. They know I'm not a chatbot. And they're very offended that I have created and configured a ChatGPT, which anyone can do, configure a ChatGPT to have certain information kind of infused in it. In this case, the history of KICLEI and how they're connected with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and how programs like the Partners for Climate Protection program operate, their flagship net zero program that they didn't want anyone to know about, and how we can get our councils to withdraw from that program by simply showing up with some basic information. And yeah, so I will be reaching out, and I wish I did this last week, but I will be following up with all of our council members in Peterborough County and providing the full context of that article and the articles that I mentioned earlier about, you know, my full responses and yeah, more information on the National Observer and, you know, who funds them and what is their bias and all that good stuff. So that leads me to, I was just talking about the Partners for Climate Protection program. And what is that? So people have been following along and, you know, what is this great discovery that we have put together here? Oh, I know what I wanted. Okay, so this is from the KICLEI Substack. This just came out on Monday. There will be, it is part of an ongoing series that is basically going through each line of the joining resolution of the Partners for Climate Protection program. So I'm going to show you that joining resolution. It's a 3-page resolution, and every point that is made in this 3-page document are the points that we need to deconstruct and reverse, right? So it's not really hard once you start digging into it, because each one of these clauses is deceptive, is not based in scientific realities, is basically using trickery. And it's, to me, almost like a spell of sorts. So, you know, words can be used as a spell. And what they've done here is they've put this 3-page joining resolution in front of our councils, and it looked good. And they didn't even know who KICLEI was, and who cares, right? And they just adopted it, and they signed up their council to this net zero program. And essentially that is how, one of the main ways that the United Nations is getting their policies and mandates on our local agendas. And our councils are essentially stuck in this pattern until they withdraw from this program. So we're showing them how to do that. And a big part of that is looking at that joining resolution, picking it apart piece by piece, and knowing how to undo it. So I recommend subscribing to the KICLEI Substack, and every Monday you're going to get a new article picking apart one more clause, and until we're done the entire 3 pages. So it'll probably take us right through the summer, and I would really love it if people, when we look at a clause, if you would share your input into what you see when you read that clause and put it in the comments of the KICLEI newsletter, so that more people can learn, okay, and have different eyes on it. So that would be great. I think we're close to the end. Yeah, I think I got through. Lastly, on, you know, there are great media sources that are sharing this information. And I just worked with Patrick from the Farmers Forum. He did a 1-hour interview with me a few weeks ago. And this is the Farmers Forum webpage. And if you look, they've actually done quite a few articles about our work. You can see it there. And it's just a really great news source. I wish I had it here, but you actually get this as a newspaper delivered to your doorstep. It is super cool. So every month I get a full hands-on newspaper delivered to me, and it has articles about what's going on in the rural landscape all across Canada right in my hands. And I really enjoy that. So the article featuring the story of KICLEI and how this work started and what we're doing now and what we're all about will be coming out this month. So definitely, I recommend subscribing to that and yeah, having an awesome paper dropped off at your doorstep. And if you do it right now, you will get one featuring KICLEI and me and all the first wins that kind of set this off. Yes, Farmers Forum is a great publication. And I am likely going to get an article in some other papers as well. So that's it for me for now. And thank you for watching. Please share this out. I will put some links in this when I do get back. I just need to go pick up my daughter. It is her last day of school. I'm so happy for her. We're going to have some pizza and yeah, have a good night tonight. So aside from that, my inbox is incredibly full. So if you're reaching out to me to get information right away, you're probably going to have to wait at least 1 or 2 weeks. I am backlogged, but I will be sitting down tomorrow and going through the emails and just knocking off as much as I can now that I am no longer jet lagged from a red-eye flight. So much love, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye. And thanks for your comments.